I was just like, that's it. I think about it every single day. It's something I really want to do. And I was just ready to start putting more effort into what I wanted to do and into the future that I wanted to create for myself. You know, a lot of people don't necessarily understand the whole risk of starting an e-commerce business, especially when you're a startup. You know, no one knows you. You don't have an audience yet. You don't have a following. You don't have a community. It might fail. It might succeed. Just the likes and the view count, and it just matters so much to people. Whereas for me, I reached a stage where I'm just so content with the content that I'm putting out that I just don't care if you're content with yourself and your ideas and where you see this vision going. You just have to ride the wave.
Today on the Kickin' It Pod, I sit down with Steph Kapsimalis. Steph is the founder of Flex, which is a clothing brand that combines her love of fashion with her love of athletes in sport. I really wanted to have Steph on because she's really enthusiastic about the fashion industry. She's extremely passionate about her brand, and she's also someone who's gained a lot of her experience and skills through taking on an internship early on in her career. I think a lot of creatives debate whether or not to be an intern, and I think Steph is a great example of someone who's been able to build her skill set, her experience and network through internships, which led her to create opportunities to work full-time within the fashion and creative industry. And that in turn allowed her the ability to have the confidence and experience to go out and build a business on her own. That obviously comes with its own challenges, and Steph shares this whole journey and all the chaos and lessons that she learned along the way. I think there's a lot that you can take away from this, and it really does show that there are many paths to finding success within the creative industry. I really can't wait to share this with you guys, and I really hope you take a lot away from this. So let's get into it. I think why I was really looking forward to having you on was because you came in to check out the studio.
I did.
What do you think of the space, by the way?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I told you last time, it's so cool. It's exactly what, I don't know, you need in a pod studio. It's so cool.
We need more people to know. And I think it's hard because if I sit here and tell people, they can't actually see the space.
Of course.
So I'm trying to get into the habit of whoever comes in here, I'm like, what do you think of the space? Because once you come in, you actually realize, this is actually a cool place.
It's such a cool space.
Trying to get more people in here. We've got a few. It's growing. But the more people we have in here, the better.
For sure. For sure.
But last time I did have you on. We spoke for ages.
We did.
For a really long time.
It was meant to be just a quick intro, and we ended up being here for over an hour.
Yeah, which is the cool thing about this. I found so much out about you, about your clothing brand, Flex. You had the podcast going on.
Yes.
You told me that you worked in fashion. And I was like, there is so much about you that would that would benefit someone who listens to this, because I'm trying to reach creatives and people who are trying to succeed in the creative industry.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's going to be really good for this pod because she looks like someone who's not afraid, she doesn't shy away from hard work.
Oh, thanks.
But which is true. It seems true. You said that you interned at the beginning. You realized that was a path for you to learn.
For sure.
Quicker, starting a clothing brand. Every time I hear someone talk about starting a clothing brand in their story, I look at it, I'm like, I would never do that. Because it just looks
hectic.
like hard work.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And me doing a pod, I feel like if you just try to do one, you realize how much harder it is than you
completely.
think. And you're doing all that. So I was like, this is good. I need her on and I need her to share everything she knows.
Well, thanks.
Because, this will be very good to share.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me.
No problem at all.
I appreciate it.
So going back to the start, you've been in fashion. I consider working in fashion the creative industry.
Yes, definitely.
How did that start? What made you want to get into fashion in the first place?
So ever since I was little, I've always loved fashion. My grandma was a seamstress, so ever since I was little, I remember I used to sit next to her when she used to sew clothes, and her ironing board used to be my workbench.
Wow.
And she taught me how to hand stitch my first apron. And then I remember sticking a sign on her door of our store. We had a store. So I guess I
always... Is this a make-believe one or a real one?
No, a make-believe one. Like her sewing room was our store.
Wow.
And I guess now reflecting on it, I always wanted to have a business, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. I was always obsessed with clothes and fashion. In high school, I used to take days off school to volunteer on different photo shoots with different stylists and photographers, work at Fashion Week. And I don't know, there was something about it that just always drew me to the industry.
Yep.
And then after school, I knew I wanted to work in fashion, but more on the business side of things. So as I was studying, I was interning at a whole bunch of brands and agencies within the industry. I did 5 in 1 year, which was crazy.
5 internships.
5 internships in 1 year.
Wow.
And that will happen to be the year of COVID, so 2020. Which was challenging because a lot of businesses didn't want people in their office unless they were an employee and they had to be there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people around me, their internships got cancelled, their internships got cut short, whereas I had one intention for that year, and that was to walk away with a full-time job from one of these internships. So I was reaching out to people, emailing people. 95% of people did not respond back to me, which is fine. But I just really wanted to intern because I just knew that, yes, I can do a massive degree and get my name on a piece of paper, but first-hand experience is where it's at, even though they were horrible jobs. But I feel like I just needed to take that path, and it worked out well for me.
Where do you think that came from? Because not a lot of people think of taking on an internship. I know a lot of people are like, I'm not working for free.
For sure, so do I. I think I just really wanted it, to be honest with you. I don't know, I also loved learning from people in, certain positions that I wanted to be in. And, just being in that environment and observing people around me and observing their teams and how they work and the structures they had in place, I just found interesting. As much as my internships were horrible sometimes, I learned so much from them. And if I had to do that again, I definitely would.
True. I totally agree. Even like outside of internships, I've always had this mindset of like, if I want to work I just need to somehow get in the room.
For sure.
It's like, however I can get in there, if I'm just around these people, they'll know how passionate I am about this. Yeah. And I know I can get opportunities because I feel like if you just show heaps of effort and you show people like good energy and
for sure,
make them realize how much you want to be there. I've worked at so many places enough to know that there are people in every job that don't appreciate their role. Completely. And they don't really want to be there. And in my mind, I'm like, if I'm there, they're going to see that like this guy wants to be there more than these other guys that we're paying.
100%.
And opportunities will come from that.
100%.
I've always thought that. And I guess an internship is a great way to do it. I learned sales growing up, and I'm big on, I feel like sales is a skill that every company, every industry will always need.
For sure.
So if you're good at that skill, you can change career as many times as you want. Knowing sales, same thing, can get you in the door.
Yeah.
And once you're in the door, then you can try and like maneuver your way into like different positions or in that company. So for me, I was a PT when I was 21, but for almost that whole time, I spent more time learning about sales than I did about the fitness world.
Yeah, of course.
Because I knew that if I did ever change industry, you can go anywhere and be like, I will sell whatever you have. I will sell it for you. And then I'm just always very transparent and open with my goals. But I want to make content for you as well.
Yeah.
Being in there, I think helps a lot. And I think for you, it would have been interning.
Yeah, for sure. And just building that network and those relationships. I've been fortunate to meet so many people through not only my internships, but roles that came from my internships and the companies that I've worked for. And I think just going out there and putting yourself out there and building those relationships is so important, as scary as it is. And even till this day, I'm like, I get so nervous when I meet someone new or meet someone who I've heard so much about. But it's just so important to build that relationship with people.
True.
For sure.
I'm good at building relationships with clients. My networking skills need to get better.
In what way?
I'm too I'm too in my own world. It's literally just me and Damien. Like that's something that I've found beneficial from this pod is I get to meet new people in the industry.
Yeah.
Before then, I was just working on my own, finding my own clients, learning everything by myself, which I don't think is the best way to do it.
You know what? It's hard work trying to maintain relationships though.
Yeah.
And even like myself, like I wish I had so much more time to just catch up with people in the industry and just touch base with them. But like there's just not enough time. Like it's a lot of work maintaining relationships, let alone building them. So yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah, I think it's just beneficial in so many ways, not just in
is.
opportunities, but in learning. Like there are so many things that I've learned. I think everything that I've learned, I look back and I'm like, I could have learned that so much faster or progressed so much quicker if I, I did take on a mentor, but took on a mentor earlier. Built more relationships with other creatives who are doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Even internships, like surrounded myself with other people that are where I want to be.
For sure.
Would have accelerated my progress.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for the longest time, I was like, I'm just going to YouTube and Google this and just figure it out on my own. And my mentality was just like, if I just work heaps of hours, I will learn it eventually. Like it's going to take me a certain amount of hours to learn this. And I accepted that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just need to do 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
And if I, rather than working 5 days, I can work 7, then I've got like more hours done that week. Like I get closer to 1,000 hours if I work 7 days. And then if instead of working 8 hours, I can work 10 hours every day.
Yeah.
And the quicker I got to 1,000 hours, the quicker I'm going to figure all this out.
Yeah.
That was my mindset.
Yeah.
Which I think is good when it comes to like work ethic, I guess. But not that great. Like when you look back and you're like, I could have just asked people. I could have just hung around with people.
It's
I could have put
true.
myself in environments with people who already knew how to get this, and it would have taken me half the time.
Yeah.
And that's why it's good to have people like you on the pod who have like figured out ways to, find opportunities in the industry in other ways outside of, what I did. But for you, I guess it rubbed off in other ways because then from everything that you learned through working at all these companies, you then decided that you could probably do some of this on your own.
Yeah, well, I always knew that I wanted to be my own boss in some kind of way. I always just, I don't know, had a feeling that I just wanted to be my own boss. I really wanted to have a teamwork under me, which is obviously visualizing the future ahead.
It's a lot of work, right?
A lot of work. For sure.
But I think that's good. I get it in terms of like you want to build your own environment and then I guess you also get to bring a lot of your own ideas to life. Did you ever struggle in those industries? Like when you worked for people, did you feel like it was hard to express your ideas? Because I feel like when you work for another company, you're working on their ideas and their vision and their goals. I guess it depends on where you work, right? But it's like we're working towards your goals and your dreams. And I feel that sometimes when I've worked on other teams, even when I get brought in as a creative or a videographer, I'm fully aware that I'm going in there to bring like your idea to life and your vision to life.
For sure.
Which is still good to be like part of a team, but there's something inside of you that's like, well, what about like my ideas? Like I want to bring my ideas to life.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think a lot of us get the need or feel that urge to start our own brands and businesses because then we get to call the shots. We get to create the environment. And I think as creatives, we want to express our own ideas without those limitations or people telling us that we can or can't do things.
For sure. Yeah, I think when you're going into any business, the foundations are there, the pillars are there. So as much as you get to express your own ideas, there's only so much you can really execute that you want to execute, even if it's the best idea on the planet. If someone doesn't like it, unfortunately, you can't execute it. So, I think there's lots of restrictions when it comes to working for other people, which is fine. And it's, of course, like...
And it's their business.
And it's their business, for sure. But, I guess... like launching Flex and being able to execute what I've wanted to execute and kind of planning ahead for what's to come. It's been great just to just to do what I want and just to have fun with it and just to explore and test things and not really have anyone hold you back in that sense.
Yeah, I think we all want that. From like the more and more I talk to like especially creative people, it's like you want the freedom to express your own ideas.
For sure.
You get into the creative industry because you have all these ideas and what I've done is like I need to create space somewhere where I can create freely without limitations. And I know that there are jobs and clients that I work with that require me to work, you know, within their boundaries.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm fine. I just know that I need to create space outside of that to do my own thing, to let go of that creative energy.
Yeah, completely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And I guess for you, Flex has allowed you to do that.
Yeah, completely. And it's interesting because I actually came up with the idea of Flex in 2019.
Yep.
And then in 2023, I was just like, that's it. I think about it every single day. It's something I really want to do. There was a period of just like uncertainty.
What were you uncertain about?
There was a period where I just wasn't in the greatest headspace, which is, I feel selfish for saying because I had a really amazing job. I was working for an incredible company, but each and every day I was waking up and working for someone else, and I knew that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to I felt like I had worked for so many people and I had put so much effort into other people and their businesses for so long, and I was just ready to start putting more effort into what I wanted to do and into the future that I wanted to create for myself. I was very silent about it. No one knew about Flex. So I told my immediate family, don't tell anyone until, I'm launching. No one knew about it apart from immediate family, a few best friends, and I was just building for a whole year, and then a year later we launched.
Why do you think you didn't want to let anyone know about it?
I think because obviously starting a business is something so foreign and it's something not a lot of people do, and I just didn't want to hear other people's opinions.
Yeah, that's cool.
To be honest with you, I was just like, I know what I'm doing, I know what path I'm on. And even till this day, I feel like I sometimes need to justify myself to people. But in the early days, I didn't want to do that as much. I just didn't want to be questioned because,
that's cool.
It's exhausting having to justify yourself to people when at the end of the day, you're working on something that you're so passionate about. You shouldn't feel the need to justify yourself to people, but I felt like I would have needed to, and I just wanted to kind of build it silently, and then slowly I started drop hinting it across socials, which picked up a lot of interest. And then a few months out from launch, I just told people what's been happening over the last 11 months.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which I felt guilty about because for all those 11 months when people ask you, oh, so what's new?
What have you been doing?
I'm like, oh, not much, just working. Yep. But really I'm up talking to factories, sourcing fabrics, trying to figure out what to do. YouTube was my best friend. How to do this, how to do that.
How to get samples,
so I felt really guilty when I started telling people, especially family, who I see so often. They had no idea, no idea. But yeah, I don't know. I'd rather build it silently, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I think that there are you can get distracted very easily.
For sure.
And when you have a lot of different opinions and people telling you to do different things, it's easy to start questioning yourself.
For sure.
And that it creates stress. You get overwhelmed. You start questioning yourself.
Yeah.
And then I don't think that's good for what you're doing and what you're building, right?
Because
if there's probably one of the biggest struggles with any creative is doubt, and people like the fear of people saying these things.
Yeah.
And it holds people back from starting businesses, from creating, from doing any of this. So that I don't think that there's anything wrong in that approach. If anything, that's a good approach.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad I built it silently for the first almost year. But were there a lot of skills and I guess information that you learned from working at
your previous
For
companies
sure,
that you took into this?
There was a lot of skills and a lot of info that I was very aware of that definitely helped me. But the truth is, because you're building something from scratch, like I entered a business when they were established for 10 years. You know, I never worked or interned for startups, and I feel like when you're a startup, there are so many foundations and just so many like even admin things that you just don't even think of needing to do. So yeah, as much as my previous experience helped me, there was also just so much more that I just needed to figure out,
Yeah,
which
no, that makes
was
sense.
definitely just so stressful, so stressful, because you're almost like, who do I go to? Like, I don't know anyone else around me trying to launch a business. Like, I had no one who was doing what I was trying to do, which, you know, makes the process isolating. But again, YouTube was just my best friend, Google, and yeah, I was just trying to figure it out on my own, really.
That's a really good point, because you're right. When you work for these, especially these bigger companies, they're already established,
For sure.
and you've skipped all those steps of
All
them,
of them.
you know, building that business.
Yeah.
What do you think were the biggest challenges?
You know, people, and I'm very lucky, I have the best support system, but as much as they, you know, would offer to help out, you know, do you need anything? Do you want me to do anything? No one could help out because one, I didn't know what I was doing. I was I was figuring it out on my own, and still am till this day. But, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily understand the whole risk of starting an e-commerce business. So yeah, it was a very isolating process. You felt, I don't know, I felt very lonely in the sense that like I wish I had someone to like bounce ideas off, but you just don't.
Yep.
So I think one of the biggest challenges is, knowing that it is an isolating process, but reminding yourself that if this is what you think about every single day, you kind of just need to know that if you're content with yourself and your ideas and where you see this vision going, you just have to ride the wave.
I still remember reaching out to so many people. I DM everyone. I send DMs to randoms all the time.
Sliding into people's DMs.
Yeah, I'm that guy. And I remember there was a period, I still look back now, and I would just message other creatives.
Yeah.
And I was like, want to hang out?
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. I'm like, if I just hang around other people, we can bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah.
But everyone's like trying to achieve their own things.
For sure.
And as much as they probably want to,
For sure.
that one was a fail. I've messaged people in DMs for many reasons.
Yeah.
Like for photo shoots and
of
even for the
course.
pod, right? And
Yeah.
I think they've been more successful than that time I tried to just message people to just hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fail. A lot of people are like, yeah, cool, but then like they'd be too far away, or they'd say, yeah, let's do it. But I think because there was no real value for them, because I was like, I just want to hang out with people and share ideas, and that we can both grow together. But that one just didn't work well. I think now in what I do anyway, there seems to be, especially over the last year, more creative like community groups.
Yes.
There's a lot of workshops where you can meet other people that weren't around back then.
Yeah.
So I think that helps, because I think you're right. You need to be around other people who are doing the same thing, and it eliminates that lonely feeling. I felt lonely as well.
It's great now because a lot of people are willing to help, even if they are in the same industry as you. But back then it was tricky. It was very, very tricky.
Yeah, I'm learning more and more, especially by having more people on this pod, is that, you know, it's helpful to have community, to not have that feeling where you're lonely, and to be around other people who are going through it.
Yeah.
You know, they're hard to find, because I think, I always think people are going to, it's very easy to have people that will like, I guess, support you, but not always like help you.
Oh, completely. Have you seen that that photo that went around, and it was a photo of like two grandstands, and one grandstand is completely empty, and that's when like you're in the process of building a business, but then when your business reaches like peak success, there are like thousands of people in the grandstand. And I just feel like that's so true in a way. Like so many people will, you know, deny you in the early stages of starting anything that you really want to achieve in life, but then as soon as they see some kind of satisfaction from it, they're your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And I don't know, I think that definitely needs to shift. I think there's room for everyone to grow and succeed. Yeah, even when I when I started Flex, before I even like launched Flex, like this was in 2023, I posted a mood board on my Instagram, and someone who I was working for saw it and was like, and I didn't even mention Flex anything, and they were like, what's this mood board? Are you working on someone else's business? You know, you shouldn't be doing something outside of this role. And I was just like, it's just a mood board. Like, what? Why are you reading so much into it? And even if I was working on something else, which I was, you know, it doesn't affect you.
And another reason why you
It
don't
was the
really want to be
strangest
telling
thing.
anyone when you're starting out.
100%, which is, a prime example of why I was working on it silently for so long, because, you know, I didn't even mention it and I was immediately just questioned on it, and I had to make up a whole thing that it was just a mood board, which it was.
Yep.
But I don't know, I just feel like everyone also just needs to, you know, if someone else around you is trying to do something for themselves, be supportive.
True. I think it's because selfishly people care about what they've got going on themselves.
For sure.
Because I feel like that person could think, oh, she's focused on something else. She's distracted. She's not putting 100% effort into what she's doing here.
For sure.
Like it would come across that way for some people.
Definitely. No, which I completely understand,
But it's why you wouldn't want to share all these things
have
with
I
people.
ever let you down?
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
You know, I'm always going above and beyond plus more. So I don't know. I just feel like you need to consider all factors.
Yeah, it's hard because it's an interesting topic. I've seen that before in companies, and I don't think it's a reflection on like you.
No.
It's things that have happened to them in the past.
Yeah.
So they may have hired someone who has been not focused because they're doing other things, and that person stopped performing.
Yeah.
Therefore, the next time it happens,
Yeah.
so this has nothing to do with you,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
The next time it happens, oh, she's doing something else. The last guy that did that
For sure.
wasn't performing because they were distracted with other things. He's Steph doing the same thing, and straight away their past experience is then put onto you.
Yeah.
I've thought about that before too, and it's like, have I ever let you down? Am I still doing the work?
Yeah, which is why building silently was the best way.
Yeah, a lot of the times it is that. And I think that's why you don't get that much support at the start, because people do see so many people start a business and fail. Right? So based on the experiences they've had, they're like, I've seen so many people try this and they all fail and they all just go back to their old job.
Yeah.
So they're probably just trying to look out for you, but it's all based on their past experiences of what they've seen other people do.
Yeah, that's true too.
So by you sharing your goals, they're like, oh, here we go, another one. Right?
It is true.
And that's going to be a distraction and stop you from doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And that's cool. And I agree. I agree with what you said with like the grandstand example. And it brought to mind like content in general.
Yeah.
The same thing happens. You get like no views and no likes when you start like posting things.
Yeah.
And it's not until you start doing great things or you're consistent a very long time later where you start getting all the recognition for all the work you've been putting in for the years
For sure.
prior. And using that as an indicator for success, I think, is terrible. And I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah.
Like we look at those numbers, like how many people are watching me? How many people are liking this? How many followers do I have? And if that number's low, we feel like we're not succeeding. Like we're using that as a metric for success.
Yeah.
When really everyone has to go through that period where they feel like they're on their own and not everyone's going to be supporting them and cheering. But if you stick through it, like everyone who does reach that end point, all those people come around eventually.
I know. It's true.
You know, but using those people as your metric, I think is a poor way to judge whether you're doing well or not, especially at the start.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
you're not going to get that support.
No, for sure. And I think that's why, I mean, to be honest with you, I always say, and my best friend and I always talk about this, but I wish I lived in a world where social media just did not exist, because I feel like so many people rely on those metrics, and so many people just the likes and the view count, and it just matters so much to people. Whereas for me, I reached a stage where I'm just so content with the content that I'm putting out that I just don't care about that metric.
Yep.
And sure, at the beginning, I was being careful with, what I was posting, what would get the most engagement. But now, I don't know, I've just reached a point where I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to post. Hopefully it reaches a certain amount of people, but I'm just at a point where if I know deep down that what I'm producing and what I'm creating means something and has purpose behind it, that I try not to look at the metrics as much.
Good advice.
I don't know. I just feel like you can get so caught up in it.
Yes.
You can get so caught up in it. And I don't know, I've worked for businesses in the past who have been so caught up in it, even though they're so successful, this one number, just because it's not where they want it to be, they think everything's going wrong. And I just feel like it's just a number, you just need to be content with what you're producing and kind of just leave the metrics aside.
I agree.
Which is difficult though.
It's really hard to do. I think you need to find a balance because the trap that I see is like you worked for this business, right? And we talked about our ideas and our creativity having limits to them, right? Like we can't create freely because we're working in this business and we've got to stick to the brand and their vision and their rules. However, you then create your own business and you want to create your own ideas, your own type of content. But again, you've created limitations based on these numbers, right? And you're in the exact same position you were
for sure
from the position you wanted to leave because now you're creating based on those numbers and the views, like what gets the most views. And I feel like a lot of people start creating content based on engagement and followers and likes, but it's at the sacrifice of the content that they really want to make. And I get it, but I think you need to balance those two things out.
For sure, which is why social media is just such a saturated environment because everyone's looking at what's working and wants to follow that pattern and go down that path, whereas actually just posting what they want and, having fun with their own content and their own ideas.
And that comes through when you're having fun.
Completely. The lead up to launching Flex, I was posting a lot of just like I was trying to, I was attempting, I find it so cringe, but I was trying to just create more BTS reels and videos of just the chaos that goes on with, launching a startup, bootstrapping it. And the engagement I got leading up to the launch of Flex was so wild. Like I used to get people messaging me, just random people just being like, hey, I've actually followed you for a couple of years and I just want to say like what you're doing is really cool. Or people would reach out to me and ask me questions and I'd be like, what is this? Like this is this is cool, but just something I wasn't used to. And I mean that goes to show like me just putting myself out there, just giving people the real stuff, all that raw BTS footage, all those ridiculous nights, and just documenting it is stuff that people actually want to see.
I agree.
And want to support.
And that's what builds your brand.
For sure.
A lot of it's scary, and we were talking about earlier how it's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra work.
A lot of extra work.
But I think it pays off. Even though it's not like an immediate return, this builds brand and it builds community, and over a long period of time, that all comes back to you. There are brands that I follow, and the only reason I connect with them is because of the founder.
Completely,
I was talking about it the other day. What was it? Fear of God. Do you know Fear of God?
Yeah.
And Jerry Lorenzo. I'm a supporter. Like, I love Fear of God only because of all the interviews I've heard this guy on.
I agree.
That's it. If I'd never heard of him or listened to any of these interviews, I'd just think it was another brand. Like a cool brand. Like, they look cool. But the more I listen to that guy talk, the more I feel connected to that brand.
Yeah, completely.
And it's time well spent, I think. And it's something that I'm trying to do a lot more of too.
Same.
Is just put myself in front and just show the process. Like, and a lot of the times you don't even think that what you're doing is like that interesting or that cool. But for other people, it really is.
Yeah. And it can be something as simple as like a 5-second video of, me packing an order. Everyone's like, oh, cool. She's still doing that. She's still, getting orders coming. And it can so simple. so time consuming, but very rewarding in the long run,
Yeah,
I think.
I agree. And so give us an idea of like what Flex is, who it's targeted at, like what's the idea behind it?
So I wanted to somehow combine my love for fashion, but also athletics. So as you know, I've been working in fashion for a really long time. I always loved it since I was little. I don't know why I loved it so much. I just remember, even if you scroll down on my Pinterest board, which I did a few weeks ago, I used to literally from like international fashion weeks like New York, London, Milan. I used to look at every runway show after school and like drag and drop the photos on my desktop and then manually upload them to Pinterest under all these different folders of like outfits I loved. So I don't know, I've just always loved fashion and like working for in-house fashion brands. I loved talking to our design teams about the whole process of creating a product. But then I've always growing up been a very sporty person, which people always surprised with. I don't know why, but I have been a sporty person. You know, I'm my dad's son that he never had. You know, I'm the first to go on a bike ride with him, on a massive walk, a run. You know, played so much sports growing up, and because my love for sports, I started following sports more and more, following certain teams, the English Premier League, but even the WSL in England, so the Women's Super League. I just became invested with it. And then that kind of investment, I started listening to podcasts of different athletes, and I became obsessed with an athlete's mindset and just how intentional they are with their life, with their everyday habits, how disciplined they are. And I just became obsessed with listening to just so many stories of athletes around the globe. And I just loved the hustle and just the grit that they show in their everyday life. And I was like, how can I kind of combine my love for fashion, but also wanting to work with those types of people and those types of communities? So then I thought, I'm going to start a business called Flex. And with each drop, I'm going to aim to work with at least one athlete through one campaign. And throughout each campaign, I'll be able to interview them on the Flex Pod. But then also on our website, I've created an athlete profile, and I'll get to just share their story and their relentlessness through our website and just like interviewing them, talking about them. And yeah, I really want to work with those people in that industry and those people in the health and wellness space. I'm a massive advocate for female athletes as well. I think they get and I could talk about this all day, but I won't bore you. But I just think they're so under-recognized and underappreciated. And I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, but I apologize.
No, go for it.
So in 2019, there was the FIFA Women's World Cup. And there was a massive movement in the States with the US women's national team. And they were basically suing their employers, which was their US Soccer Federation, on equal pay and just them fighting for what they deserve. Now they're the most recognized team in the US, and they've won the most medals, the most trophies, like everything. They generate the most revenue, and they were getting paid potatoes in comparison to their male counterparts and so many other teams within that country. So, and not a lot of people know, but it was a massive movement in 2019 in America, and I was just so invested in it. And because of that movement, I became invested in everyone in that team. So again, just invested in the athletes in that team and just their mindset. And that's what also made me just want to create a platform where they can share their conversations and their stories on just the unfairness that they've experienced and what they've had to go through. So for my first collection, I worked with Emily Gilnick, who's an Australian national footballer. And we connected one day and we were just talking. We just went on a tangent.
How did you do that? How did you get in contact with her?
I reached out to her manager, and it was honestly so hard to find an athlete to work with for my first drop.
Tell me the process, because I feel like this is cool.
Yeah, so I just reached out to a whole bunch of people. I knew that I wanted to work with Em. But, you know, I also reached out to other people because I was like, you know, what are the chances of working with her? Like, you know, I'm a startup.
But how are you doing this? Are you just emailing people?
Emailing people, again, hardly anyone responded back to me. They probably thought, what is this brand? Who is this random person trying to reach out to me? But,
did you feel like you needed someone to start this brand? Like, I need an athlete?
Yeah, for sure. Flex was also created because I wanted to work with people in that industry. So yeah, I definitely needed someone to be the face for our first campaign. So I reached out to Em's manager, and Em's manager was like, yeah, she'd love to jump on a call.
What do you, break this email down, what are you offering? What are you saying?
Basically that I'm a startup. I'm hoping to launch this year, and I really want to work with someone with this type of mindset, and I'm a massive advocate for female athletes and women's sports. I follow it. I've been following Em and all of the leagues that she's previously played in around the world. And yeah, I basically just had to sell myself, sell Flex. And her manager was like, this sounds awesome. Em would really love to meet you. And then I connected with Em, and she was the best. Ever since that first interaction with her, I just felt so confident that this is exactly the partnership that is going to support Flex in season 1. She was so excited about the brand and where it's going, which made me feel super content that my delusion, that someone can see my delusion and someone believes in it. And she was just so supportive before we even launched it. And
that'd feel good, eh?
It felt really good. I was just, after that initial connection with her, I was just jumping off the ceilings that afternoon. I was like, yep, that's it. We got it.
Yeah.
Like, we secured this for sure. I was so nervous though. So nervous.
I can imagine.
I don't know, just selling yourself. And especially when you're a startup, no one knows you. You don't have an audience yet. You don't have a following. You don't have a community. She also probably didn't want to make her look silly, partnering with someone who, it might fail, it might succeed.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it was tough. It was so hard to secure someone as well, because a lot of major sponsors such as, Nike, Adidas, all those massive commercial businesses, they sponsor athletes from such a young age now. And because it was kind of a conflict of interest, a lot of managers were like, no, we can't, because she's sponsored by Nike, he's sponsored by this person, and it was a conflict of interest. Whereas Em just ended her partnership with one of those commercial brands, so I sort of got to slide in at a good time. So yeah, it all happens for a reason. Got to work with Em, got to interview her, and yeah, she was just the most incredible person.
That's awesome. How many people do you think you reached out to?
Gosh, for season 1?
Yeah.
Probably like 30.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that too. Like, all you need is one.
All you need
is one person. Especially when you're a startup,
because
you think, no one's going to believe in me. I'm just a startup.
For sure.
I haven't proven anything.
No.
But all you need is one sometimes.
For sure. Like, when I reached out to Em, I didn't even launch the Instagram account for Flex. Like,
wow.
There was nothing for me to show her apart from just me telling her about my delusion and showing her the collection and just talking to her about, just everything she's gone through as an athlete. And yeah, I mean, the story she's told me is crazy, but, she has that mentality of just being really intentional, of hardworking, fighting for what she thinks is right, along with the rest of her team. And it's just something that just motivates me more, even though I'm in a different industry, but just knowing that, if you
a lot of those traits do carry over.
For sure. And just having that intentional mindset about where you want to go and just sticking to your vision and your goals, it can go a long way, even though it seems wild.
No, it's true. But you're super passionate about what you're doing, and you're doing it for all the right reasons. Like, the intention behind everything that you're doing is, you can see it, like you can feel it, right? And I feel the same
because of the tangents I often go on.
Yeah, exactly. But it shows that, like, you're really into it. Like, you can tell, like, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
And I've always felt the same way about what I do. Whenever I'm trying to work with someone, or if I was in a similar position, in my mind, I always think I just need to sit down with. If this person gave me 5 minutes, they,
Yeah.
they would know. Like they would know how much I care about this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And you just need that one opportunity. You need that one person to give you that one opportunity to just sit down with them. And I'm like, they'll know how much I'm invested in this. And
yeah, for sure.
because it is that. I'm not going to let them down.
Yeah.
You know, it makes them feel like, you know, they're onto something
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, completely. For
Man,
sure.
that's really cool. I
Yeah.
really like that. And obviously there've been a lot of benefits with having her on board.
Yeah, for sure. Like, obviously, she has such a strong following.
Yep.
But I don't know. The grind never stops, though. Like, just because, you know, I have M on board, I just, you know, you still feel like you need to constantly justify your brand and really showcase who you are as a startup. But yeah, just talking to M, she was just incredible to work with, and seeing her be super genuine about how passionate she is about where Flex will go in the future and
Yep.
how keen she was on it, that in itself was just more than enough.
It's very scary, especially for what you're doing, like with clothing and brands.
For sure.
It's such a big upfront investment, isn't it?
So scary.
Like you're spending so much money at the beginning, and a lot of these, from what I've heard, there's like minimum orders. So like you've got to
Oh my
buy a
gosh.
ton of
a ton,
product.
like a ton.
Then there's marketing it, all the
Yeah.
effort that you're putting in, and you haven't even sold anything yet.
yeah. Oh,
And you've
completely.
spent all this money, and you don't even know if you're gonna.
really
You don't know if
sad.
anyone's gonna buy anything.
Yeah, it's very scary.
And I've heard people, the struggles that I've heard is like, man, when you're first making it, all your mates are saying, yeah, man, we're going to buy it, of course. And then no one buys shit. And then you're stuck with all these people that have promised you. And then you're like, how am I going to sell this? I've got all this stock and I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
yeah.
And you've got to have the level of, I guess, delusion or
It
faith.
is. It's
As
yeah,
well as like a
both.
plan, you know, like some sort of marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
To give you some sort of certainty or reassurance that you're going to make back
Yeah.
at least what you put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really scary, and I remember the night before I had to pay my first invoice. That was my first chunky invoice. I
Yep.
was avoiding it for like a week. I
Yep.
was like, I'm just gonna hold this out for as long as I can. And I remember just thinking to myself, gosh, that's a lot of money.
Yep.
A lot of money that I could put into other things that will benefit me in my future. You know, do I really want to do this?
Yep.
But then I was like,
That's when it hits you, right? The first time it
oh
actually.
my God. I was really nervous, really nervous. But then I was like, as much as I was thinking of all the other things I could have spent these on, or the other investments I could put that towards, I was like, nah, like you need to do it.
When you made that first payment, like that big payment.
My heart dropped. My heart dropped.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I feel like investing in what you do is like, because once you made that payment, I'm like, what was the
No
fear? It's like,
going
yeah,
back.
there's no going back.
There's
like
no
I've
going
got to go
back.
now, right? Like
Yeah.
we've got to make this work.
Yeah.
But that's a position that you almost want to be in. Like without
For
making
sure.
that investment, there's always like this, like you don't
Yeah.
have to go as hard as you want to.
Yeah.
There's always like a way out in any industry, even the creative industry. I think there's so much power in investing, even investing in mentors. Like mentors cost a fortune
Oh
sometimes,
my gosh. Yeah.
but it's like once you've made that investment, it's like now we're going. Like
Yeah.
now I have to work.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real, and I
It's
think that's a
real.
good position to be in because it
For
shows
sure.
like, do I really want this?
Yeah.
And I'm going to find out one way or another
Yeah.
right now because I put this money in.
For sure.
I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I've got
Yeah.
skin in the game now, and it's a.
There's
I think
no
it's a
going
good thing.
back.
Yeah.
There's no going
So
back.
how did you react to that once you made that first investment?
My heart sunk, but I knew deep down that it needed to be done.
Yep.
Like there was no, like yes, I was nervous, of course, but I also knew inside of me that it needs to be done. Like I don't want to wait another 5 years to do this. I already look back and regret not doing this earlier.
Yep.
And I just thought you need to bite the bullet and just do it. And I'm content with also being in the position of, yes, Flex might not get huge until 10 years time. Whereas I'm ready to wait 10 years for that one massive partnership in 10 years time. Like
Awesome.
if I need to bootstrap it for as long as I can. If I need to get a small coffee instead of a large for 10 years.
Yeah, true.
If I need to just pull back where I can and kind of sacrifice a bit to get to that point,
Yep.
I'm more than happy to do it. More than happy to do it. And
That's good advice.
there's no part of me that doesn't believe in flex, which again, it's probably my delusion talking, but I don't know. I felt content in being, in just doing it, really.
I agree, but like that belief makes you like stay in the game.
Yes, that's true as well.
We were talking about that before. It's
Yeah.
like the people that I see succeed, they've just kept doing it for a
Yeah.
long period of time.
Yeah.
And they've given themselves a big enough time span to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people fail because they
Yeah.
don't give themselves enough time. They don't see it as a 10-year game plan.
Yeah.
Like they want that first drop to go off.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't, or if they lose money on that first drop, they start doubting everything because they're too short-sighted.
For sure. And I feel like, I don't know, a lot of people think that, you will become super successful from that first drop. But the truth is, everything that I'm making from this first drop is going into the next drop, but also paying off the first drop.
Yep.
And there are so many other factors when it comes to running a business that people just don't think about, like sampling costs, production costs, money spent on ads, even setting up a campaign, photographers, videographers, makeup artists, paying for the athlete,
Yep.
paying for the props, paying for styling accessories, paying for, your Shopify subscription, paying for all of these other factors that, money is just constantly coming out of
Yeah.
your account, and it's draining.
Yep.
It's draining. But
This is something
think
people need to know because this is all before you've sold one piece of...
all of it.
Yep.
All of it. And I think people just need to be content with knowing that it's going to be hard for a very long time before it gets good. And as scary as it is, I'm willing to risk that for that good period.
Yep. No,
Hopefully.
True.
Hopefully.
And it comes with belief. It's like, I believe
Yeah.
in this enough to know that it's going to pay off
Completely.
eventually. There's a lot of things that I think require that mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to see a return right away. This podcast is one of them, right? It's still early on. I'm like, this is my 19th episode, I think.
Pretty impressive.
It's not bad, but
So
you
good.
feel like you're doing it for free.
Yeah.
Well, I am doing it for free.
Yeah.
And it's a big investment in time. And you
sure.
think like, I'm not getting an instant return. Like there's no return on this at all, other than I get to meet cool people.
Yeah.
But like financially, if I may get nothing, but if I do see any return, it's not
Yeah.
going to happen for years.
Yeah. It won't.
And you've got to have like just a belief that all this time I spent and all the energy I'm putting into this will come back to me eventually.
Yeah.
As long as I have the right intentions and I'm enjoying it
For sure.
and I believe in it. Because as
For
soon as
sure.
you lose belief in it, like you're finished.
Completely. And I think that also comes with, why I wanted to build it silently for so long is so I don't need to justify this idea to so many people because it is hard and not a lot of people do it. But again, I don't know, I just have a feeling inside of me that it's what I'm meant to be doing, and I'm trying to ride that feeling as long as I can.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I love that attitude. And one of the last things I want to talk about is because like a lot of the viewers here, a lot of this is like the creative photographers, videographers. How did you go about building out your campaign? Like what was the strategy? Did you have an idea in mind?
Gosh, I had an idea in mind.
It looked pretty cool. I saw the page.
Thanks,
Yeah, it turned out great.
appreciate it. A lot of chaos, but in terms of strategy, I knew I wanted just to be super comfortable in the collection. We were down at the water. I wanted it to be super simplistic, so there were just a few props. The whiteboard in our campaign was literally built the night before.
Wow. It looked cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool. That was one thing I knew I wanted my campaign. I don't know why. I just thought a whiteboard in the middle of the ocean was just awesome, and I loved it. But again, so quick story on that. So we shot the campaign on a Tuesday. On the Monday, I had hired a van just to put all the props in the van. On the Monday night, that board was built. It was meant to be built the week before, but for obvious reasons, you know, everything just kept getting pushed back. And the morning of the campaign shoot, it was 4 a.m. in the morning, pitch black. We lifted the board in the van and we realized that the board was too big to fit in this van that we hired for this board. So just needing to pivot straight away, used a ute, our neighbour's ute, to get it was chaos. But anyways, strategy behind it was that I just wanted something really simplistic. Again, I worked with an incredible videographer, Chris Proud, who I met through interning and working for the businesses that I had worked at. So again, building relationships, super important. He was super easygoing. Hair and makeup artist Lucy on set, she was incredible. Again, met through previous, workings.
And it's good to have those contacts. I think when you're building out those campaigns, the team that you work with is important, like you said.
Yeah.
It's very important. And a lot of the times people don't have those contacts. Like they don't know the right videographer or photographers or hair and makeup people to do these things.
Yeah, for sure.
And, they're just relying on just whatever they can find online. But they're big decisions.
Huge decisions. The team made it so easy that day. So
True.
easy.
I've worked with like really good teams and really bad teams, and there's a big difference, man.
Yeah, definitely.
It changes the whole thing.
Yeah, it made such a difference when you get along with the team and when everyone's on the same page.
Did it feel good to finally do a campaign and do these things on your own terms? Like you got to decide.
Yeah,
you made
sure.
all the decisions.
I was so nervous the morning of. I did not sleep the night before. I was like painting plinths the night before.
Wow.
I was like standing there with the hairdryer, making sure everything was drying on time.
Yeah.
Ironing the collection like 5 times through to make sure there were absolutely no creases. I did not sleep. But after the campaign, I was just, I don't know, a whole weight was lifted off my shoulders. But the morning of, before everyone got to the location, I was so nervous. My whole body was shaking. I just couldn't believe we got to that stage. Flex came up with the idea 5 years ago, and a year ago was, there was a certain moment where I was just like, yep, we're doing this. And to actually get to that morning was very scary, very, very scary. But we made it.
What a feeling, hey? Yeah, you're right.
I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah.
But it's what we live for. It's why, especially as creatives, that's the whole game. It's like we have all these ideas in our head.
For sure.
And it's like, how do we bring them into reality?
Yeah.
With all of us. And we find our own creative outlet to bring the ideas we have into our mind into the world.
Yeah.
And to have one that lasted 5 years.
Yeah, I know. It's wild.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, going back to how you were like, how did it feel when you made that first deposit, which is why I felt so content, because to think about something for every single day, like for 5 years, every single day, I was like, it needs to happen. Like I'm obviously thinking about it for a reason. I just need to, bite the bullet, which is scary.
And now that you've done it once, you know the process, you know what it feels like. You learn a lot from that.
So many lessons.
And then you go into what's to come, right?
What's to come, which is launching a new drop, hopefully by the end of Feb, which is very exciting.
That's very soon.
It's very soon.
Okay.
Very soon, which, there's a lot to do before then. So hopefully, everything's up and running by the end of Feb.
How's that coming along?
It's coming along good. Everything's getting, just produced at the moment. Our factories are onto it.
Are there things that you're doing different this time compared to the first?
This collection will be a smaller drop.
Yep.
So it's only going to be 2 T-shirts, a men's tank, which a lot of guys were asking for last drop. So I was like, okay, if you're asking for it, I'll produce it for you.
I like a good tank.
Do you?
Yeah.
One's
cool.
coming your way. And then a cap, because you can never have enough caps.
Oh, yes. Oh, man, this is made for me.
A smaller collection for sure. One of the lessons I learned from season 1 was to definitely go smaller.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, for sure. But, you learn as you go. Yep. Smaller collection, working with another athlete, which is exciting.
Can you say who it is?
No, I'll leave it for a surprise. Yeah. Okay. And then, yeah, hopefully more Flex Pod episodes soon.
Yes.
Gosh, that's a process.
Mhm.
Trying to lock in people,
That's a challenge on its own.
as you know.
I do.
But yeah, a lot coming. Just taking it slow and steady wins
Yep.
the race. Don't have too much pressure on it. And yeah, see where it takes me.
That's exciting. You've got the right attitude and you're passionate about it. Like everything
Trying
you
to
say.
be.
Yeah.
Trying to be.
I think so. Like you can't see it not doing well. And no, I love it. If there was a Steph starting out wanting to start her own brand,
Yeah.
right? Or even before that, she wants to get into fashion.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give her? If you saw Steph
Yeah.
5-6 years ago
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't know what to do,
Yeah.
but wanted to work in fashion and one day have her own business,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell her?
Intern, 110%.
Mm-hmm.
Intern, volunteer, reach out to people, do as much free work as you can, because honestly, it leads you to so many places. You meet so many people. You know, as I said, in high school, I used to take days off school to work at, photo shoots and assist different stylists. And from high school, I got to meet so many people and take content, which is on hard drive somewhere. But if I really wanted to, I could have built a portfolio from back then.
Yep.
So I think just interning, reaching out to people, and knowing that, it's okay to intern at one place, not like it, then try and intern for someone else.
It's never wasted time, right?
No, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, you're only learning that role isn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, true.
it's not a waste of time at all. If anything, it's just benefiting you more because you're one step closer to figuring out what you want to do.
I agree. That's good advice. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, even if it isn't interning, like with creatives, with photographers, we just go out and do free work
For sure.
with anyone. And I think you're right. You do learn the things that you like and the things that you don't like. I think the powerful thing about like interning or just, I think in general, I think the lessons like try and surround yourself with people who have the skills that you want or are further along than you are, or they're in just positions that you want to be in. Because the more you're around those people, the more you're going to take those lessons and learn how they work.
Yeah, and even just observing how people operate, is just, I don't know, I loved just sitting at my internships, and yes, I was like in my little corner doing my job, but just watching the whole team just, do their own thing, watching all these different departments, work on what they specialize in. It goes such a long way, and you don't realize it until 5 years later when, a lot comes out of those internships. But yeah, it's so important.
True. You've got to take advantage of those opportunities, right? Because a lot of the times when you're in it, you don't realize how much of an opportunity you actually have to learn.
No.
And you're like, oh man, I'm just getting coffees for people and I'm doing this shitty job that no one wants to do. But that's an opportunity that you wish, in 5 years' time, you're going to wish you did more when you were there. Or you observed more, or you were more aware of your environment.
For sure. And you also need to think about it as if, all of those people around you were in your position at one stage. All of those people around you were getting the coffees a couple years ago.
True.
It's just part of the process.
I totally agree. My girlfriend says the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Because she has interns now too.
Yeah.
And she's like one of the heads of her company where she works at right now. And she tries to tell these, like, this is what you have to do. Like, I did it. This is what I did.
We all do it.
And this is where I am now.
As you know as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done my fair share of free work.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, but it's worth
draining.
it. Like, there's value in it. Just because you're not getting money doesn't mean you're not getting value in other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Money isn't everything.
Yeah, I think so too. And it comes back in the long term. You have to trust and have that belief.
Yeah, completely.
This has been awesome, Steph. It's everything and more that I thought we were going to get out of this.
I apologize for my tangents. I feel like...
No, they're great. We need more of them.
I ramble a lot.
No, I think stories are great.
Sorry.
No, these stories are good. They give more context and it shows how how invested you are in what you've created.
Delusion.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see where Flex goes. This next drop sounds exciting. I can't believe it's like around the corner. We've timed this like perfectly.
I know. It's pretty crazy.
I'm like, this is sick.
Now I'm like, I need to go home and make sure I have
now
my
you have to
things
because you've
together.
actually said it.
I've said it. I've announced it.
Yep.
I I haven't actually said anything to anyone. So here we go.
Awesome. Well, thanks for for being on, taking the time, coming down. I always appreciate it. Every time I have a guest on, I'm just like, I'm so thankful that they came down, they took the time to share what they've learned. Because, man, people can learn so much just from listening to other people and what they've done. Yes, I really appreciate you sharing as much as you did.
All good.
Thanks,
for having
Steph.
me. Appreciate it.
How good.
So good.
We did it.